Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It is wrote to Allah Ta'ala, two things is wanted at all times. One is to be sadiq, you must be true. You must be true. And secondly, you must be sincere. Sincerity and sadiq is two things. You must be true at heart. You must be true. If you haven't got these two things in you, then you're not a true sadiq. Sincerity is so important. Mahazrat in one majlis, he says that a person, when he's sincere and he's true, then he's got nafs mut'mainnah in him. Nafs mut'mainnah. Nafs mut'mainnah, when a person gets that in him, then what does he want day after? Ya ayyatuhan nafs mut'mainnah. So the most important thing, he says, that when a person's aqidah is correct, his aqidah must be correct. What is aqidah? He has true at heart, very sincere. Then he's got mut'mainnah with him all the time. Mut'mainnah with him all the time. There's no more lawamanam, nothing at all. A true mu'min, when the time he is passing away, that kind of person who's got this nafs mut'mainnah in him, when he begins to pass away, he has the knowledge that he's passing with iman. He has the knowledge that my Hazrat is saying, I'm not saying, I'm just saying what he said. And it makes so much of sense to him. But once the person got this in his heart, that he's got his true at heart and got nafs mut'mainnah, then it's obvious that the time when he's passing away, he has the knowledge that he is passing away with iman. And that too with perfect iman. That was perfect iman. One is iman, but passing away with perfect iman. He has the knowledge of that. Why? Because he knows that the moment the person passes with that kind of iman, the faristas are actually inviting him. That Ya ayatuhan nafsul mutmainnah turji'i ila rabbika radiyatan mardiyah, which we read at a time when people pass away. It's not that. This is something else. When your iman is of that kind, when you fought yourself all the time, then you are true and sincere. So when you have that mutmainnah in you all the time, so in the time of death, when the angels come to you, what are they telling you? So you know exactly that you have passed away with iman. So how important it is that you must have nafs mutmainnah in you. Nafs mutmainnah, which is important. And once it, that in other words, says, return to your Rabb, just as you are returning in the world. What does he mean by that? Return to your Rabb as you are returning to in the world. In other words, this much. Now you're going to start all this. Sparking, these fortuners and all, they've got fortuners there. They think they've got big cars, now they can park it anywhere they want to. Whereas, it's so important that never give taqleef to anyone. Don't give taqleef to anyone. ND 750443, it's a Fortuner. Please remove the car. So when the angels say, they said, return to your Rabb, just as you return to Rabb in the world. Now what's the meaning of that? That first when you return to the world, the meaning of that is this much, that in the world you should commit a sin. But when you committed the sin, you do not look after the sin, you rub the sin off by you turning to Allah. In the world, when one is a person commits a sin and he sits with the sin, and one is a person commits a sin and he rubs the sin off, he says, turns to Allah straight away. That he makes tawbah. There are difference of people too, but when he makes tawbah, that kind has. In other words, whenever he should commit a sin, he should make tawbah. Either with his tongue or with his heart. To make with the tongue or to make with the heart. the outcome of the tawbah is that black spot which was in his heart. That black spot fade away. And we know the hadith of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when a person commits a sin, one black spot comes. My dear friends, as long as you make tawbah straight away, that it goes away straight away. Your iman becomes strong again. But if you commit the sin and commit all the time, that black spot is increasing, Allah mari father. Because once that increases the point where then khatam Allah ala qulubihim, then it should become most difficult for the person to move out anymore. That black spot cannot. Sometimes it should become so difficult that it becomes that his iman goes away. So here Hazrat is saying so nicely that you went to Rabb. In the world, the Farishta is saying, you now come to your Rabb. As you come to the world, you came to your Rabb too. How nice my Hazrat is showing us. Do not lose hope, but do not delay in Tawbah. Do not delay in Tawbah. You committed a sin, make Tawbah straight away. My Hazrat, you say, as long as you got breath, you got hope. As long as you got breath, you got. So how important it is that now you got this breath, make Tawbah, khalas. So his Hazrat is saying that, but you make Tawbah straight away. And sometimes you only made it with the tongue. You do not even make it with the tongue, you make it with the tongue. And sometimes this, but that you make it with the heart. You make Tawbah with the heart. So he came with that iman that is pure. When a person makes Tawbah with his heart, with his tongue, what happens thereafter? He is pure. He is pure. His iman is pure. And that is what is wanted. Once the person makes Tawbah, the black spot goes away, it is pure again. So to return to your Rabb. So Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah said, my love, Allah Ta'ala does not turn away from us, we turn away from Allah. Allah Ta'ala does not turn away from us, we turn away from Allah Ta'ala. It's a very important statement this. He does not turn away from us, we turning away from Him. Then what do you expect Him to do to us with us then, if we have turned away from Him? After committing a sin, you at least make tawbah with Allah Ta'ala. They turn to Him. You turn to Him, He must turn to you. You turn to Him, He must turn to you. He must definitely turn. Sometimes a person does not have the opportunity to say it with the tongue also. Sometimes a person does not have the opportunity to make tawbah with his tongue also. He does not have the opportunity with his hand also. Some people tell me, Moulana, I'm so sick, I can't even lift my hand to make dua. I said, so what about it? Allah does not only look at your hand. Allah look at your heart. A person all his life, bichara, he can't lift his hand up. One lady is always telling me, I can't lift my hand up. So I said, what do you want? You make it with your tongue, with your heart. That to Allah Ta'ala accepts straight away. So we must not lose hope that because I am weak now, I cannot lift my hand up and not make dua. People thinking to make dua only with the hand is important. Making dua with the heart is most important. So as I say, this brother opportunity cannot even lift his hand up. But with the heart, very strongly he regrets. That regret he had. That strongly that he regrets for that sin he has committed. Allahu Akbar. One person had a very bad habit of committing zina. That's why, you can't look down at anyone. Moulana, Allahu Akbar. And one day, he went near a woman, and what happened to him was something else. A regret came in his heart so strongly that he made sure that he did not go near her. And he was a person who was continuously going, a habitual fornicator. But a condition came into him at that time. Who can you look down at, my dear friend? Look down upon yourself. What kind of namaz you are reading? Look at your own actions. This person actually, he got so disturbed. He disturbed that he looked at that person who should look at all the time, he looked at with hate. How that hate came into him all of a sudden? How that regret came into him all of a sudden? Is because he must be regretting for what he has done. The regret was there all the time. He may be doing, committing that act, but he was regretting, Ya Allah. And somehow the time was up for him, that it so happened that immediately after, the regret came, the hate also came. Regret what? Hate. He did not lift his hand up. The regret was at heart. So when you regret with the heart, the hate came, and automatically love of Allah came inside. Love of Allah Ta'ala came inside. Allah Ta'ala gives whoever He wants to give His love to. Yes, if you turn to Him, He must turn to you too. You must turn to Him. So this is what we say, Hazrat is saying, Sadiq means you must be so turned to Him, you must get Nafs and mut'mainnah, you know, that Lawama and Amara must not take you over, must not overtake you. In no way the Nafs must overtake you. You must overtake the Nafs and become mut'mainnah and completely at ease, no Nafs. That is meant in the meaning of that you're in a battle all the time. Don't be under the impression, I said mut'mainnah means you sit down quietly. In other words, continuously you are fighting with the lawama to that extent that you make it sure that you do not leave from mut'mainnah at all. All the time you are. But the heart very strongly regrets. Mandya, work is done. When your regret work is done, then Allah holds your hand. Allah Ta'ala holds you. So my husband said, when a mu'min gets sick, my husband, when a mu'min gets sick, listen to this very carefully. The sickness goes for a very long period. One is sickness for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days and all. One is sickness for a long period of time. In that long period of time when he's sick, it so happens that death is in front of him. He's not dying. He's not dying. He's still alive. But death is in front of him 24 hours. What is you think is happening to that person? He only knows himself. He did not pass away. He knows death. But death is in front of him 24 hours because of the sickness that I'm now going to go. I'm now going to go. The Hazrat says, yet death does not come in front of him, but death has come in his heart. The death has come into his heart. Now tell me that person experienced, Hazrat is saying, tell me that person experienced that kind of condition of what do you think he must be doing at heart? Regret. Tawbah. Because he knows the Malakul Maut going to come. When he's coming, he does not know, but the Maut is there in front of him. Now because of this condition that long Allah touches, everything is a blessing. Some person, when a person is very, very sick, Allah Ta'ala knows why. Now if that person wants good health, Allah Ta'ala knows why not giving it. Now that person must not speak out of turn only. He must not complain. He must not complain. He must be happy that Allah Ta'ala is keeping me in this condition. Many of people today you find that they begin to say, you know what, hey, I'm so sick and so, how nice I could well. Right? But Allah Ta'ala knows why not keeping him well too. Because the moment he gets him well, Khuda na kare guna mein mubtala ho jata. Khuda na kare he gets him sin also. So Allah Ta'ala knows what it is. So this person, when he's so long period is committing, sick, very sick, the regret that he has, that is called Tawbah Islam. Ya Allah, please forgive me. Allah. Now it's from his heart is sick. But there's no other way out, his heart is sick. So he is forgiven. And when he's forgiven, what is being told? He's been told this, but that your sin is forgiven, Allah is happy with you. And you are happy with Allah Ta'ala. What are we looking for? We are searching for the pleasure of Allah. Remember one thing, everything that we do in this world, the only thing we are seeking for is the pleasure of Allah. If you got the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala in you, you got everything. Ya Allah, I'm happy with you. You are happy with me, I'm happy with you. So when a person continuously making tawbah all the time, and Allah is happy with him, like that kind of person then says, no, the Farishta says something. Now that you're included in my special servants, you're included in my special servants. Now just imagine that person just be tawbah and Allah Ta'ala including the special فَدُخُلِي Jannah. Now the Jannah is prepared for you. It was prepared for you, now it's prepared for you. You can enter Jannah. In other words, the most important thing here is this matter, because continuously he made sure he brought himself into Nafs mut'mainnah, that committing sin but straight away to regret. The sin that whatever he commit, straight away begin to regret. That black spot was not increased. He's all the time making tawbah, all the time, ask for forgiveness. Sometimes with his mouth, sometimes with his tongue, sometimes with his heart only. But the regret becomes so strong to that extent that he gets nafs mutmainnah in him, that iman becomes so strong. And that person, then Allah Ta'ala, فَدْخُلِي فِي الْجَنَّةِ, it is prepared for you, and now you can enter Jannah. Allah Ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهِ. You know the Imam, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. Allah, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهِ. Say my Rabb. Say my Rabb. Rabb. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. Rabb, what is the meaning of Rabb? Rabb is a person that Allah who looks after us, who takes care of us, who feeds us, who looks after us, take care of all of us. Now this is very important to understand, that our Rabb is looking after us. Then why are we worried about it? We worried of things that we're not supposed to be. But Allah said, I took responsibility, I look after you. Now you shouldn't worry, I don't know what's going to happen to me now. I'm going to get married tomorrow. You know, what's going to happen? That's in Allah's hands. Allah said, my hand that is. Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allah. You say, Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allah, my Rabb. Thumma istaqamu. Then you are firm on it. Steadfastness. The moment you say you're Rabb, you are steadfast on nothing, that means you must be so firm, no one must shake you. No one must shake you. Why is it that after you say Rabb, then and still making God this in you, if someone is shaking, then look, who's going to look after me? Who's going to take care of me? Because you must know my Rabb, that in other words, you must know I am the curer. You don't commit any kind of shirk. You don't commit any kind of shirk. When the moment you say, Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allah, my Rabb is by Allah, who looks after me, who takes care of me, cures me, everything. In other words, you only look after towards Him and no one else. You do not commit any kind of shirk when He works. In other words, your ibadat also, my Allah is sufficient. Do not make namaz for anyone else. You make namaz for everyone else, you commit a shirk. You read Quran for everyone else, besides Allah, you commit a shirk. Any charity you've given, you give for Hajj, you commit a shirk, you make besides Allah Ta'ala. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, and you make for Allah Ta'ala. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, and that you be firm on it. Then you find that تَنَزِّلُ عَلَيْهِمْ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. And that kind of person, the time and all the time, he's very firm and makes istiqamah, and he makes this kind, then Allah Ta'ala, for istiqamah there. Allah تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. What are you fearing now? There's no fear, no sorrow, no grief now. وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ. The Faristas give glad tidings. The Faristas give you glad tidings that Jannah is prepared for you now. You go inside. You are so firm. You made sure that you made me happy. You made sure the time when you committed sin, you made tawbah straight away. You made sure that whatever happened, you did not commit the sin all the time. You made that effort all the time and you made tawbah all the time. This is a condition today that you are so firm in whatever you did. Jannah, and the Faristas say that in a world where we were your friends, and in the dunya and akhirah also. Look what was glad tidings given for a person who makes tawbah and become firm not to commit those sins again. And steadfast that Allah, the Faristas even give glad tidings that in the world where your friends, and in the akhirah also. تَتَنَزُّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. So this is istiqamat, as he says, that one has to understand that if you have istiqamah in you, firmness, that when you commit a sin, make tawbah. Don't regret. Regret must have. The regret must have. You cannot put your hand up, but regret at heart. So many people in this world, you don't know what went wrong they may be doing, but in the end the regret that had them, Allah forgive them. That's why they say you do not know who passed away with Iman, who did not pass away with Iman. You find a person crying, he's like fearing. Today, when you see a person smiling and say, hey, mashallah, what kind of death he had. How do you know? How do you know? Certain things only Allah knows, no one else. Like when a person passes away, you say, hey, Jannati. Why? Any Jibreel can you tell you that? No one told it. That is in Allah's hands. That woman, when she told Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I want to see my son in the being martyred. She went there and said, Jannat Tuban Mubarak. What do you think Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Who knows? What do you say? Who knows? Only Allah knows it. So it's not our duty, but to think good of a Muslim is very important. When anyone passes away, we must think good, inshallah, Khuda kare, Allah ki Jannah. But we have no rights to say what we say nowadays. So if you see a person smiling, because the time of death, shaitan also comes near a person. That's why they say you make dua, oh Allah, save at the time of shaitan at the time of death. Shaitan comes like a person is so much involved in the world. He likes money too much. Then his money coming from him. His money is coming. So he looks at that thing and he smiles and gets happy with that. Then the person got some bad habits in him. He's a womanizer or something. He's got a special contact with some wrong woman. Then that woman also comes in front of shaitan. So he looks at Allah, money, father from him. Now that alhamdulillah, once you continue with the iman all the time, then we know all these things, then at the time of death we will know exactly what to do. Look, we have been told all these things, and in time, at the time of death, Allah must protect us, but the most in the time of death, we will know that Allah will be with us to protect our iman. We will know that. So when you see a person smiling, you must not jump into conclusion, but you can't say, inshallah, Allah has good death. And then you find many times people say, look at that person, man, look at him now. He passed away in a fear. What's wrong? What happened to him now? He does not realize in that time, as I've seen the Farishtas, he started crying and regretting for his sins. And at that time, Allah forgave him. So we don't know who's who. We cannot know who's who. That is one thing hidden between him and Allah. But the good part of the Majlis today is, Hazrat said, which you must remember this, and that is what? Nafs mut'mainnah. A person who is a true, sincere, who follows his, who does not follow his nafs in committing sins, is a nafs mut'mainnah. And nafs mut'mainnah, Allah Ta'ala says that that person has got kamil iman to Dawud iman. So that person has the knowledge about Dawud iman. Make dua to Allah Ta'ala, that Allah Ta'ala sabku nafs mut'mainnah nasib ba'ul Dawud, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Allahumma ahsina aqibatana fil umuri wa ajinna min khizyi dunya wa adhabil akhirah. Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa in lam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna minal khasirin. فاطر السماوات والأرض أنت ولي في الدنيا والآخرة توفني مسلما بالصالحين. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. صلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد رحمة الله.